Hi there. Uh, Good morning and good evening. And we are in session number 7 today um, in Python for Beginners course. And we are going to cover chapters partly. Like there is one topic that we have left out in the chapter named data structures. We are going to cover that today, along with few concepts in the other chapter called conditions and loops. So we will start with if else, and then we will also see as time permits. We will learn for loop and while loop as well. So it all depends on how are we going through the session and how what is the speed, uh, how what are the topics that we are trying to cover, etc. So as always, let's do a quick brush up of what happened in session number 6, and then we will start the topics for today. So in session number 6, we basically covered four important data structures. One, dictionaries. Second, set. Third is tuple. Fourth is data frames or tables. So the dictionary is also widely known as JSON format. It's a format of the file or an object inside the memory. So the format is very simple. You will always have a key and value. That's dictionary. It is little different from list. List will basically have index and value, but in dictionary we have key and value. That's it. And we have also seen how to add an element into a dictionary, how to remove an element from dictionary, and how to create nested dictionaries, and how to read elements if you have nested dictionaries. That's what we covered. Then we said tuples. Tuples are also like lists, but these are immutable objects, and very similar to list. You can perform read operations, slicing, dicing, and reversing, but you cannot change the same variable. Like you cannot add an element, delete an element in the same existing variable. In case if you would want to do that, you have to create a new tuple altogether. Okay. And then we have seen set. Set is basically again a list, but it cannot have duplicate values. You cannot read each element of a set. It is grouped together always. That's what we have seen as a set. And the last one that we have seen is data frame. And to uh, get into data frames, we basically have to use pandas as a package or library. And you will have to install pandas for the first time if you are using on your system using pip3, or you can also use installer from your PyCharm console. That's what we have dealt with in the last session. Okay. So now let's begin with what we have for today. The first thing that we are going to cover here, as I'm coming back to my contents, is arguments. Let's see what is arguments and where is it widely used for us, and why is it important for you to actually learn arguments. Then we will start with if else, and if time permits, we will also deal with for loop. Okay, let's start a bit then. Okay, I have again my session number 7 Python file here in the project. So just to be on the safer side, I'm going to, because the PyCharm has been open for a while, just to make sure that it doesn't hung up in the middle of the course, I'm just stopping the console again and I'm restarting the console so that it is ready for me. All right, arguments. Arguments are nothing but the external parameters that you can pass into the code are called arguments. For example, I wanted to run a Python file, but I wanted to give external values into the Python as I run the Python code. If that is my requirement, how do I basically pass the external values into the Python code when I initiate the Python program? That is called arguments. Okay. So let me create one simple file in this project and I'll tell you what is that it means. Okay. And with this opportunity, I'll also tell you if I have to execute a Python file, not using a PyCharm, but using the terminal, the complete file, how do I execute? Let me show that. Okay. So PFB, it is session 7, but this is very specific to arguments only. Okay. I'm creating a very important file just for the arguments. So let's see here. I have a print command, for example, print, this is first line of our skill Python for beginners course. Okay. And then I have some mathematical operations. For example, a is equals to 10, b is equals to 30. Now print a into b. right? This is what I wanted to print. And then I wanted to print, for example, completed my multiplication operation, right? This is what my program is, as simple as that. Now I am saving this file. Now I wanted to not run the file or run all of these 5 lines through this console, but I would like to go to terminal here, as you see. And in this terminal, you are currently in the directory where you created the project. Now, I just wanted to run this file. I don't want to get into the Python console. I wanted to just run the file. How do you run a file? Just say Python space Python3 space the file name. What is the file name that I just created? Python session7 underscore arguments.py, right? This is what you should basically give. So as soon as you say this is the file and you're asking to run inside the Python, what it does, it basically executes all these 5 lines one after the other, and it will complete the program execution and it will exit. Okay, let's see that. See, it has completed executing line number 1. So that's the reason you are seeing print command here. It executed line number 2 and line number 3, but there is no print operation. That's why you don't see what happened in line number 2 and line number 3. But in line number 4, I said print A into B, that is 300. So that's the reason you are seeing 300 as an output. And 5th line it executed, I said print completed my multiplication operation. That's the reason you are seeing this. All right. Now, if someone asks you, how do I run a Python file? This is the one. Now here as an example, I just created 5 lines of code and then I wanted to run the complete file in one single go. This is the way that I did. In reality, you are going to run, basically write thousands of lines of code. Hundreds and thousands of lines of code. And if you wanted to run that code, in a sequential manner, whatever way that you have programmed, and you wanted to trigger it externally, you basically always execute it in this way. So that everything that is there in this file is basically took into the Python kernel, and it is going to execute all of these lines one after the other or the way that you have defined. I'm going to say line after the line here until unless we get into another topics like functions, lambda functions, list comprehensions, etc., etc. When we get into there, you will understand much more complexities that are involved and what are the multiple ways that you can design a program. Okay, now how is it related to arguments? Okay, now for example, I'm writing a program saying, I don't want to basically give A directly as an input. Instead, I wanted to take input from the external files and then print it accordingly. Okay, what does it mean? Let me tell you. I would say first I will import a package called sys. Inside this, now I would say A is nothing but integer of, inside the sys package, there is a function called argv, and I say take the position number 1 as a value. Okay, and that you call it as int A. I'll tell you what happens exactly. See the beauty, after executing, you will understand this better. So I would say argv2, okay? So, and then I would say this is A. I'll keep this again just like this, and I'll copy paste on the bottom, on the above, the previous ones. What were the previous ones? 10 and 30. And we are not in the first line, probably there is a typo here. We are in the 10th line here, okay? Now let's see what is the difference actually. Now I save this, again I come here and I say Python 3, run the same file, okay? But instead of you just running a file, take an input called 20 and then I just gave a space and then I said 40. Now you see what happens. See, the first 7 lines are executed as it is. A is 10 and B is 30, and A 10 into 30 is 300. You have seen that output here. Now, the rest of the lines, again you are in the 10th line of the program, but what I said, take the first argument and call it A value. That is an integer value. Call it A value. Take the second argument and then call it B value. What is the first argument that I have passed along with execution? 20. The second argument that I have passed is 40. So now what is 20 into 40? 800. That's the reason you are seeing 800 here. Now again, I can run this program instead of 20 and 40, I can say 15 and 30, right? That is 450. Now you see, the first three lines are fixed because my values of A and B are hard coded. Hard coded means inside the program the values are fixed. But here what I'm taking is, instead of me fixing the values inside the program, I'm taking the values of the variables from the external sources where I'm executing a program. These are called arguments. So the arguments is nothing but passing the external values into the program on the fly when you want to actually execute the program. Those are called arguments. Okay, so you can have n number of arguments actually. So I can also say c is equals to int of, again, sys.arg v. So the third position that I wanted to pass. Okay, but what is c? I'll let you know. Print, I don't want this c as an integer, but instead a message. Okay, so I wanted to print a message saying that print c exactly as it is. Okay, now I'm saving this file and I'm executing this again 1530, but also I'll tell that good job, as simple as this. See what happens. These lines are exactly as it is again, as we have seen in this, but A is 10, A is 15, B is 30. What is C value? Good job. That's the reason print C. You see line number 15, exactly the same thing has printed here. So you can pass n number of arguments to your Python program. It is up to you. And this is called argumenting. Now, if you don't want to run from this console, and if you ask me how do I get the same thing workable inside the PyCharm, I also have a way to do it. Not using the terminal. In case if you want to use Python console for that, what is that you need to do is go to add configuration here on the top. It is exactly the same as the way that you have executed on terminal. There is no difference. But in case if you are interested to know how to execute the same thing using PyCharm, this is the way to do it. Just click on add configuration, click on this templates, click on this plus, and you just say, I'm sorry, where is that option looking like? Okay, so click on this plus and you say Python, and after you say Python, what is that you should say? You have a script path here. Okay, and that is nothing but the current directory. Don't give. These are the parameters. Arguments are also called as parameters. Now I would say 15, right? 15. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me give a name to it. Session. Okay, what happened to this? Session. Yeah, session 7. I'm saying parameters are 15. 30 is the second argument or the second parameter, and the third one is, because it is a text, I'm giving it in single quotes or double quotes. It's up to you. Now I'll save this, apply this, right? And then you have to say to which script it has to apply. So just click on this. Okay, you need not specify that. In case if this is the same directory, just click this and then okay, cool. Now you see this configuration has been applied. In case if you don't want to run line by line on this console, you want to run the complete file with the parameters that you have just configured here. Okay, so you have to just say, on the top, you say, instead of you saying execute line in the Python console, you just say run the file in the Python console. Okay, that's it. So what is that you see? There is an error here. I see 300 is printed, this is printed, but the problem is with argument 1. So it is saying there is nothing called orskill. Did I give orskill here? Okay, let me see. Edit configurations. Okay, I think it has overwritten mine. I have to use this configurations, not this configurations, right? So let me choose this configurations and then again right click and say this one. All right, I think I have shown you a different thing. So let me say this is the configuration. Go to configurations again. Let me start from the beginning so that you guys, when you want to replicate, you should not face errors. I'm deleting everything that I have basically. I'm going to show you again. So just click on OK. So there is no configuration, right? Just right click on this and then say this method. Okay, create a PFB session 7 arguments. This is the way better you choose it so that it is easy for you as well. Okay, then here in the parameters choose the one 15, 30 and good job. So in the other way that we have just gone through, it needs lot of other configurations. So I have found a easy way for you. Okay, click OK. Again, I'm repeating, to edit this configuration, don't click on this add configuration. Instead, right click on anywhere on the screen, just say edit the file name configurations. You will go to the directly that sheet. Okay, now let me run this file again. Run this complete file. Now let's see what happens. See, completed. So what it did, it exactly ran the same thing. It used Python 3.7 binary. It has executed this file and it has passed 15, 30 and good job. Exactly like how we did it in the terminal. So what you have learned is, what is argument? It is nothing but also called as parameters. That's a synonym to it. How to execute it through the terminal, how to execute it using PyCharm. Okay, so that is all about arguments. If you have any questions, please make a note of it. We will address after the session. Okay, so now we are into chapter number 7, or it's not chapter number 7 or not, I should check, I'm sorry for that. But we are into conditions and loops. Let's start this topic with a very important loop that will always be there with you throughout the programming in Python is if else. Okay, so as the English meaning also explains, if there is a condition that has met, do certain job. If that condition did not meet, don't do that job, do something else. That's why if else is basically falls into conditional statements. Is 10 always greater than 9? True, right? So that means if I have to write a program, I'll type it for you. For example, if 10 is greater than 9, because it is always true, right? The syntax is use a colon. As soon as you click return on your keyboard or enter on the keyboard, you automatically see there is a indentation given. Indentation is nothing but one tab of space. As soon as there is a one tab of space, that means whatever you are going to write in this section of one tab, it belongs to if clause. So for example, if say print you are into if block. Okay, now I go back to my indentation and if I say else, and again for the else you should have a colon. This is the syntax, and you plus return. Whatever you are going to write inside this indentation, it is again belongs to else clause. You are into else block. Okay, again whenever you are done with if else, you will again return to the same indentation. Make sure you press delete or backspace on your keyboard. You are done with writing an if else loop. Okay, now how do you execute this? Select all of this and again say command return on your screen. But before that, let me regenerate my Python console. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to remove this. Remember this again, I have to remove this configurations from this, else it is only running the same file for me. Okay, so let me say edit and then remove this. There is nothing for me now. I am done with learning arguments. Okay, now again I'm coming back to my same console. Let me clean up my Python console. Why is it again saying this? It is running the whole file. Why is it so? So let me, okay, I am in the Python 7 arguments console. That's the reason it is doing it. Just close this away. And then you are in the new console. Okay, just keep observing these windows on your screen, right? Very, very sensitive, but it is very good to learn. The more and more you become comfortable with PyCharm, you are more close to the real world. Because in real world, all the Python developers, most of them prefer to choose PyCharm. You take any big companies, Google, Apple, Amazon, any big companies, if there is a Python developer in that company, he will be using PyCharm. Believe me. Okay. All right. Again, coming back to this topic, just select everything and then say command return. See what is the output? You are into if block. Now let me change this. I say 10 less than 5, 10 less than 9. Is it true? No, it is false, right? Because this condition is false, automatically the if block goes into the else block. Now let me select the everything and then say command return, you are into else block. Now you might get a question, is that only one line that it executes? No, you can have anything again. A is equals to 10, B is equals to 20, and just say print A into B here. If it is an if block, if it is in else block, A is equals to 20, B is equals to 300, and then print for me A into B again. Let's see what does it do. Okay, so why is this giving me a message like this? Let's see. I select everything like this and then say command return. You see, you are in an else block because this condition is false. So because this condition is false, whatever you have in one indentation, everything is skipped. And it directly goes into the else block, and inside the else block, the first print you see on the screen, A is 20, B is 300 has been selected. It is not A is 10 and B is 20. See here, it is A is 20, B is 300 because it is executing else block. And then I also said print A into B. So that's why it is 6000. One second. All right. So let's go ahead. This is what is else and if. Now we can make it much more complex also. I wanted to introduce the topic that we have covered in the earlier sessions. What's the topic that we have covered in the last sessions? The topic that we have covered, one of the topics is how to take input variables from the end user, right? I think one of you guys had a question also, where can I use it actually? So I have given an example of, if you have certain experience, you can execute a program. If you have a different experience, you execute another program, so on and so forth. Let me write the same thing that I have taken as example in this if else block. Okay. So now let me take a sample example that I have here. And in the if else, I also have if else if as well. Okay. Instead of copy pasting, let me write. So just say prompt for an input from the end user. Okay. And how do I prompt it? Call it an integer first of all. Input from the user. Just give a text also. What is your experience? Okay, in years, please type. That's what you're asking end user. Okay, somebody will type their experience. You're calling the value of experience as Oracle prompt. Now you wanted to write a program. If Oracle underscore prompt is less than 5 years, just say print, you are the first level software engineer. Okay. Now, if it is not less than 5, else, you just say print, you are the second or highest level software engineer. Okay. This is what you wanted to basically print on the screen after basis on the input that somebody is giving you. Okay. See here, I'm not hard coding anything, but I have a logic that I have written. So I wanted to execute all of these things together. So I'm selecting everything and then say command return. You see on the screen, it is prompting your input. What is your experience in years? For example, I say 4 years. So 4 is less than 5, right? So this print statement is executed. Line number 26. So you are the first level software engineer. Again, I select the same block and then execute it. It is asking your experience again. This time I say 8 years. So 8 is not less than 5, right? So it should go into the else block and it should print this. Let's see if that is happening here. Now you see your experience is 8 years. So the program that executed is, you are the second or highest level software engineer. Okay. Now there is something else called else if. Along with if else, there is else if also. You don't have only if and else condition. You have multiple conditions in between also. For example, you wanted to write a program less than 5, and you also wanted to write a program for less than 7. You want to write a condition for less than 10, and then you have something above 10. Okay. So in that case, I use if else. So let me write the same thing. If Oracle underscore prompt is less than 5, say print I'll copy paste from here. You are the first level software engineer. Okay. And also print your salary range would be, right? Range would be, for example, X dollars to Y dollars. Okay, this is what I wanted to print. Now, I have second condition. I say ELIF, that is also called else if my experience is less than 8, that means if my experience is between 5 and 8, that's what it is technically meaning. Then I say, I'll copy paste this completely again. Okay, I say you are a second level software engineer and your salary range would be from A dollars to B dollars. Okay, now again, I have the same else if condition, but I wanted to keep it for 12 years. So anything more than 8 years and less than 12 years, this block will execute. So I said third level engineer and your salary would be from Y dollars to, or probably any other alphabet, F dollars to K dollars. Else, anything more than 12 years, you would say you are the, you just say print, you are the highest level software engineer, and then your salary range would be from P dollars to probably I dollars. Now I have this complete input. So basis on this variable again. So let me copy paste this. I will execute all of this together. Now you see it is asking my experience. I would say 2 years. So what it is saying? The first block. It is true here, right? So as soon as it is true here, it doesn't bother about any other else ifs. It directly executes it. You are the first level software engineer. This is your salary range. And again, I'm executing this completely. Now my input experience would be somewhere around 9 years. So what is 9 years here? This is the one, right? You are a third level software engineer and your salary range would be between F dollars to K dollars, exactly the same. So this is where the input will basically help. And the other way to take the inputs from the end user is through arguments that we have just covered, right? And this is another way to take the inputs from the user that we have covered in the earlier sessions. Basis on the input, if you have certain program that you want to write, you can definitely write using if conditions, if else if, and else also. Okay. And I can also have nested if, just like having a dictionary inside a dictionary is possible. Having a list inside a list is possible. You can also have an if inside a if as well. Okay. How is it possible? Now let me copy paste the same program to a different line. Okay. So I'm copy pasting it to this line. And now I say, okay, somebody is less than 5, but I wanted to break it up much more. After getting into this if loop, I wanted to still break them up into 2 other parts. Less than 2 years and between 2 and 5 years. Now, if that is the case, I again have an if inside this if block. Okay. So if Oracle underscore prompt is less than 2 years, then I would say print you are close to be a fresher. I just wanted to print this. Else, I would say, print this one. Okay. So I'm cutting it, I'm pasting it here. Now what happens according to the logic, when somebody's experience is less than 5 years, it basically goes into this indentation. Okay. But again, I started an if block. There are double indentations. See? So double indentation means this particular piece of code belongs to the inside if block. And that syntax should be followed across. And believe me, this is made easy because of PyCharm. Automatically, whenever you write some blocks, in the new line, it gives you an indentation by default so that it is easy programming for you. But if you wanted to do the same thing in terminal, you need to, press tab or a space bar by yourself. Okay. Now let's execute this completely and see what happens. I'm saying, what is your experience? I would say 1 year. Instead of me, see, only one print statement has executed. First thing is, 1 is basically less than 5 in the outermost if block. So it went into this block. And inside this block, again, I have another if condition. It says, if 1 is less than 2, print this. If it is not, print this. So that's the reason, because 1 is less than 2, this print statement has been executed. Now I wanted to execute the same thing again, okay? And then say, now my experience is basically 3 years. And now, see, 3 is again less than 5, so the same if block has been executed. But 3 is not less than 2, so that's the reason it went into the else block, and this has been printed on the screen for you. So you can create an if else blocks. You can also create nested if else blocks, and you can again create another nested block as well. It's up to you. The complexity of nested if conditions is left to the human brain, and it is up to our requirement or design. Any which complex way you want to design, you wanted to write 10 nested if blocks, one inside the other, you are open to do it. But you have to make sure that you're logically writing it correct. Okay? So this is all about if else, ELIF as well. So ELIF is nothing but in case in the if else block, you have multiple conditions that you want to basically write, because if and else is only 2 conditions, right? But if you have 3 to 4 conditions that you have to spread across, then you have to use ELIF. Okay? Now you might ask me, can I write an if block without an else statement? Yeah, definitely. What happens in that case? Let me copy paste this entire thing again for you, and now without an else block. What happens if I don't have an else block? Will it throw an error? Let's execute this and then I'll show you up. Now my experience, for example, is 9 years. So when I say 9 years, it executed absolutely perfect. And because it is 9 years, it is greater than 8 but less than 12. So this has been printed. Now what happens if I execute the same piece of code, but I specify something which is out of range in this if clause? For example, I say my experience is 15 years. See, there is nothing printed. That's the only thing going to happen. Because greater than 12, I did not specify anything to do. So you can also have an if else conditions inside the Python program, even without the else block. Having an else block is no more a mandate thing inside the Python. Okay. So I think this is a good time to basically stop this, and I have, I think, covered everything that I thought of for if. Yeah, I have covered everything that I thought of for the if. The next one that I had on my mind was for loops and while loops. So we can do that in the next session, and I'm happy to take any questions at this point of time. So what we covered today, only arguments and if else. That's it. Cool. Any questions in these 2 topics? Yes, no, maybe. All right. Yep. Yes, because to read the arguments from the external file, that function is available inside the sys package. You see on the screen, argv is a function that is only available inside the sys package, so it is mandatory kind of thing. Cool. Any other questions? No? Yes? Again, as I always share in every session, please start practicing. I'm sure few guys already started practicing and they don't have installation issues, and I see a few students are still struggling at the installation phase. Please bear with me. Probably you can connect on me, send me a screenshot. There should be a time synchronization between you and me when you're facing the problem. But I'm sure if you strictly follow the installation videos, it should not be an issue. But the only challenge that I'm seeing is a lot of students have their Windows systems, but sadly I have only Mac. That would be the only gap, but I don't know what would be the installation options that you see on the screen when you want to install inside the Windows. but conceptually everything is one and the same. Okay, once you wanted to get into the console, the concepts are perfectly one and the same. But I will try my best to help you guys individually, whoever is trying to get help from me on the installation section. But um, you know, you will have to start practicing by hook or crook. Okay, if you don't start practicing, you will be left behind for sure. And I'm sure I'm also planning some real time projects at the end of this course where it really makes sense to you as a Python programmer, where you can invest your skills. Okay, and if by then, if you're not ready with all of these exercises, I'm sure you will feel like you're lost. I don't want that to happen, so that's the reason it's like an alarm in every session. Please try to make it possible. With that note, if you don't have any further questions, I'm done for the session. Thank you for your time today. We'll meet tomorrow with for loops and while loops and some sleep operations, etc. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.